we have had this pretty extraordinary housing data so far this year over the last 6 months or so. Are the conditions that have allowed this to happen, do they have further to run?
It's definitely possible they have further to run. It depends on also what we're talking about from resale versus new construction. We are seeing a slight tapering with respect to our proprietary survey we published on Monday in the new home market. Sequentially, August to September sales declined 12%, where they historically declined 7%. But that was after 5 months of significantly better than seasonal trends, and orders were still up a whopping 73% year over year versus 79 in August. So that tapering is happening at a very, very slow tapered pace. But the United States is at an all-time record low in resale inventory for single family, and builders, frankly, can't build houses fast enough to meet the current demand across all price points, not just entry level. The move-up market is on fire.
So I'm curious, Ivy, that in your research, when you look at sort of what the builders are doing, or more importantly, what they're planning to do, are they planning to sort of increase output to a level, I guess, to meet current demand, given that there seems to be a pretty long runway from when you can develop that land and get that house built and sold?
They are, and they're aggressively buying more land. I think they recognize that the current pipeline could easily be absorbed faster than they had been forecasting initially. So their plan is to bring more product to market through buying more land. And frankly, land prices are rising and they're passing it through to the consumer. Right now, some builders are being forced to slow down sales, meter out in certain local communities where it's building, where the sales are too fast, even after aggressively pushing price to cover, i.e., higher and crazy lumber prices, and other input costs are rising. So it's going to be interesting to see how far affordability has room to go. With rates as low as they are, they definitely have wind at their back. But those price increases are running right now on an annualized pace for the new home market at 14% through our proprietary survey, which, by the way, covers about several hundred builders, or 15% to 20% of the market, or 6.8% if you just looked like the current month. So that's something that we're watching closely, because keep in mind, everyone focuses on rates, but for every 25 basis point increase in mortgage rates, that's really the equivalent for an entry level buyer, about a 3% increase in their monthly payment. So this rapid home price appreciation has put us back to pre-pandemic equivalents to when rates were 4%, not below the 3% they're currently running at. It's just trying to frame it for you.
That's a really interesting take. We're going to delve into the affordability question much more in a moment. But first, I want to get a geographical perspective from you, Ivy. You seeing where are we seeing imbalances the most at the moment? Are people building in the right areas? Where are we seeing it redistribute itself?
Well, a lot of people are talking about the Great American Shuffle, as we're seeing a lot of migration out of high-cost markets, less favorable climates, to that more affordable Southeast, Southwest overall markets. But what's pretty interesting is that Great Shuffle has been underway since really the last decade, 2010 to 2020, as more of the consumers are taking advantage if they can sell their homes and move to those more favorable areas. But today, the markets that are the strongest, I'd say Austin is definitely top of the list. We have Phoenix is off the charts, extremely strong. You've got the Florida markets really throughout the state are exceptionally strong. The Carolinas. It's really those warm, very red states that are pro-business and low cost and more affordable, and frankly, more space. The problem with our high density cities is not a lot of areas to build. So they're just not areas that builders are pursuing as aggressively. There's just not enough space.
Ivy, I want to ask you about these sort of broader macro conditions, because one of the things is, of course, as we've been talking about, we've seen this fairly sharp economic rebound since the worst days in March, April. But we have seen ongoing rise in permanent layoffs, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down yet. At what point does that start to sap some of the demand for housing if people are anxious about their jobs, or lenders are anxious about lending to people whose jobs may be at risk?
Well, to just frame it for you, I think that interest rates really are trumping the surge in unemployment, even though it's come down a bit. And I think about the 161 million people that are in our labor force, not including even retirees. Let's just say, if you want to say that 15 to 20% of the population of labor force is today out of work or furloughed, you still have all these people that are currently working. And I think the big sea change is remote work. I think today, 6 to 7%, pre-pandemic, I should say, households worked remotely. And what you have right now is the flexibility being afforded to employees where they can maybe come to work only once or twice a week into the cities where they typically commuted, allowing them to buy further out. We're seeing tremendous surge in second home buying. I think it's the strongest we've seen in second home buying in more than a decade, even during the boom period, as people are looking for destinations for their families that might not want to leave cities permanently, but are looking for that space and that getaway to be, unfortunately, they have to be stuck in their home. So there's tremendous tailwind from the overall sea change from remote work. But unemployment back in 2001 never got to the current levels we're at today. But if you recall, back at the end of 2000, the market was starting to price in that the Fed was going to have to cut rates. And pretty much throughout the back half of 2000 into 2001, when the Fed did start cutting, housing was a relative winner until 9/11, when that shut everything down. So rates trumped rising unemployment in that period, not necessarily comparable. But think of all the people that are taking advantage of the mortgage rates now below 3%. That, to me, trumps unemployment. And I don't know how long as rates stay low and builders don't push price too far, too fast. And certainly the resale market is seeing multiple bids, especially on that entry level price point.